The film begins with a 14-year-old girl named Maddie Ross. Nobody would believe that someone so young would leave home in the freezing winter to find the man who killed her father. The man's name was Tom Chaney. He shot Maddie's father, stole his horse, and took 2 gold coins from his pants. Chaney was just a worker that Maddie's father had taken along on a business trip to the city. In the city, Chaney drank and gambled away all his money. When he felt cheated at the gambling table, he went back to the motel to get his gun. Maddie's father tried to calm him down, but Chaney shot him. After that, Chaney ran away. Nobody in the town knew Maddie's father or cared enough to go after Chaney. Chaney probably thought he could just get away with it, but he was wrong. Later, Maddie arrived in the city to take care of her father's body. She went to the morgue and asked her mother's servant to take her father's body back home for a proper burial. At that time, Maddie decided to stay in the city to find her father's killer, Chaney. But since she didn't have much money, she had to stay at the morgue. The guard didn't mind her staying there as long as she was brave enough to sleep next to 3 dead criminals who were about to be executed. Maddie was shocked when she heard that, so she went to see where the executions were happening. After the criminals were executed, Maddie went to the sheriff in the city to ask about her father's murder case. Sadly, the sheriff explained that the police were short on people to help right now. Plus, Chaney, the man who killed Maddie's father, was at the bottom of the wanted list. This meant that the case would be handled later, not anytime soon. Hearing this, Maddie felt really disappointed. The sheriff then suggested that Maddie go see a cowboy named Rooster Cogburn. He was one of the best cowboys in the city, famous for catching many criminals over the years. People even called him True Grit because he was so tough. In 1789, there was a law that said every city in the United States should have 1 cowboy. If the police had trouble catching criminals, they could ask the local cowboy for help. After finding out where Cogburn was, Maddie went straight to see him. She innocently went to the public toilet where Cogburn was. There, Maddie told him that she really needed his help to catch Chaney. But Cogburn wasn't in the mood to be disturbed, so he yelled at her and kicked her out. That night, since Cogburn had rejected her, Maddie decided to spend the night at the morgue with the 3 criminals who had been executed earlier that day. The next day, Maddie went to her father's business partner to collect a debt. She also asked for compensation for Chaney running away with her horse. Maddie knew that Chaney used to work for this man, so he should be responsible for Chaney's actions. But the business partner denied this, saying Chaney was no longer his worker, so he didn't have to take any responsibility. But there, Maddie didn't give up easily. She threatened to take this matter to court if he refused to pay up. After losing the argument, the business partner had no choice but to give Maddie the money. After the negotiation, Maddie got the money and decided to stay at the hotel where her father used to stay. There, she felt sad when she saw her father's old belongings. The next day, Maddie went to court to find Cogburn again. When she arrived, Cogburn was actually on trial for a murder case. But since he was the best cowboy in the city, he easily won the trial and got out without any trouble. After the trial, Maddie went straight to Cogburn. This time, she offered him a deal. Maddie wanted to hire Cogburn officially, offering him $50 if he managed to catch Chaney. But Cogburn refused again. He couldn't believe that a young girl like Maddie had that much money. The next morning, Maddie woke up to find a man sitting and waiting for her to wake up. When she asked who he was, the man introduced himself as Lawman. He was a Texas Ranger, a cowboy who hunts fugitives in Texas. Now, Lawman was on a mission to capture Chaney for killing an official in Texas. Since Maddie's father was also a victim of Chaney, Lawman came to find out where Chaney was last seen. Turns out Lawman had been chasing Chaney for a while, but was still having trouble finding him. When Maddie heard Lawman's story, instead of helping, she made fun of him. She told Lawman not to bother chasing Chaney anymore because she and Cogburn would catch him. Lawman stayed calm even though Maddie was acting so confident. He then suggested they work together, but Maddie quickly refused. She didn't want Chaney taken to Texas for trial, cause she wanted him to be tried in her own city. Feeling annoyed, Lawman finally left. Soon after, Maddie went to a ranch to buy a horse. While looking around, she saw a beautiful black horse. She decided to buy it and named it Little Black. After getting the horse, Maddie went to Cogburn's place. There, Cogburn was surprised to see her. He didn't think Maddie was serious about hiring him to catch Cheney. But seeing how determined Maddie was, Cogburn agreed to help. He told Maddie to come back the next day at 7 in the morning. The next morning, Maddie arrived right on time at 7, but she couldn't find Cogburn anywhere. The owner of the place gave her a letter from Cogburn. In the letter, Cogburn said he would go after Cheney alone and that Maddie didn't need to come along. He even left a train ticket so Maddie could go home and wait there. Reading the letter, Maddie got really annoyed. Then, she quickly rushed off to catch up with Cogburn. When Maddie arrived at the riverbank, she saw Cogburn walking with Lawburn in the distance. Cogburn had expected Maddie to follow them. He told the river guard to take Maddie to the police station so she could be sent back to her hometown. He assured her that he would catch Cheney and that she just needed to stay out of it. But Maddie was stubborn and insisted on crossing the river anyway. After successfully crossing, Maddie accused Cogburn of running away with her money. She also suspected that Cogburn and Lawburn were working together to trick her. However, Cogburn denied it, explaining that he just didn't want a young girl like Maddie to be involved in such a dangerous job. Even after his explanation, Maddie kept arguing. Finally, Lawburn, who was getting really annoyed with her behavior, hit Maddie to make her quiet. Seeing this, Cogburn felt sorry for Maddie and stopped Lawburn. That night, while they were resting, Cogburn and Lawburn started arguing about small things, which quickly turned into insulting each other. As things got heated, Maddie tried to calm them down by changing the subject. In the morning, as they were getting ready to leave, Maddie asked why Cogburn had invited Lawburn to join them. There, Cogburn explained that Lawburn had also hired him to capture Cheney. Maddie got angry. She didn't want Cheney to be taken to Texas. In the middle of their argument, Lawburn showed up and mocked Cogburn, saying he was just taking orders from a little kid. This made them fight again until Cogburn couldn't take it anymore. He canceled the deal with Lawburn and threw him out. Now it was just Cogburn, and Maddie left. They continued their journey together. On the way, they stopped at a shop to ask if Cheney had passed by. Cogburn found out that another fugitive named Ned, who he had been looking for, had bought goods there. Strangely, Ned used a gold coin that belonged to Maddie's father. Cogburn was sure that Ned must be connected to Cheney. Hearing this, Maddie felt hopeful that they would soon find Cheney. They kept following the trail the fugitives had taken. As night fell, they reached a suspicious-looking house. When they called out, the people inside yelled at them to go away. And Cogburn, feeling something was off, told Maddie to block the chimney on the roof. When the chimney was blocked, smoke filled the house. The people inside finally reacted. It turned out there were two fugitives hiding in the house. Once they were convinced that Cogburn didn't mean to catch them, they let him in. Inside the house, Cogburn suspected that these two men knew Ned and Cheney. He made them an offer. If they told him where Cheney was, he would provide medical help to one of the fugitives who had been shot in the leg. Unable to handle the pain any longer, one of the men confessed that Ned and his group were planning to stay at this house in a few hours. However, his partner disagreed, and they started fighting. With the information they got, Cogburn and Maddie waited outside the house to ambush Ned. While they were waiting, they were surprised to see Lawburn coming towards the house. They tried to warn him to hide, but it was too late. Soon after, Ned and his men arrived, and a gunfight broke out. The next day, they continued their journey. Along the way, Lawburn kept teasing Cogburn, saying he was too old and couldn't shoot accurately anymore. Seeing that, Cogburn got annoyed by the taunts and decided to show off his shooting skills, proving he was still a great shot. When it started to rain, they set up a tent to rest. That night, Cogburn suddenly said he wanted to quit. He thought that Ned had already warned Cheney that people were after him, and Cheney might have left town by now. Hearing this, Maddie tried to encourage Cogburn, but Lawburn agreed with him. And Lawburn also decided to give up. In the morning, while Maddie was getting water from the river, she suddenly saw Cheney there. Startled and shaking, she grabbed a gun and fired but missed. Hearing the gunshot, Cogburn rushed over to save Maddie. But it was too late cause Maddie was taken hostage. She was brought to the top of a hill where Cheney and Ned's group were hiding. Ned asked why a kid like Maddie was there. She bravely explained that she came all this way to catch the man who killed her father, Cheney. Ned then planned to use Maddie as bait to trap Cogburn. Shortly after, He ordered Cheney to guard Maddie while he and 3 of his men went to attack Cogburn. As soon as Ned left, instead of guarding her, Cheney started strangling Maddie and held a knife to her neck. Luckily, Lawman arrived just in time. He had been secretly following Ned's group and saw Maddie being taken. After knocking Cheney out, Lawman and Maddie hurried to save Cogburn. Meanwhile, Cogburn had already taken down all of Ned's men, but he was in bad shape, trapped under his own horse. Then, Ned aimed his gun right at Cogburn's head, ready to finish him off. But before he could, Lawman shot Ned, killing him on the spot. When things seemed safe, Cheney suddenly attacked Lawman from behind. In the chaos, Maddie fell into a hole while trying to escape. Inside the hole, she was attacked by poisonous snakes, and one of them bit her left hand. Thankfully, Cogburn quickly helped her and hurried to get Maddie to the nearest doctor. But by evening, they still hadn't found a doctor. During the journey, Little Black, Maddie's horse, was dying from exhaustion. And Cogburn, not wanting the horse to suffer, reluctantly shot Little Black to end its pain. In that moment, Maddie was heartbroken to see her horse, who had been with her throughout the journey, die right in front of her. Even though she knew Cogburn did it to stop the horse's suffering, it still hurt her deeply. Using all his strength, Cogburn ran while carrying Maddie through the falling snow. He kept running, ignoring the cold and how tired he was. The only thing on his mind was saving Maddie and getting her to a doctor. Finally, he made it. After that day, Maddie never saw Cogburn again. Years have passed, and Maddie is now all grown up. Because of the snake bite from before, she had to lose her left hand. Today, Maddie is planning to go to the city where she first met Cogburn, hoping to see the man who saved her all those years ago. But when she arrives, one of Cogburn's friends tells her that Cogburn has passed away. Hearing that her hero was gone, Maddie felt a deep sadness. To her, Cogburn wasn't just any cowboy. Rooster Cogburn was the greatest cowboy she had ever known. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is sometimes chasing bad guys can lead to losing a horse, a hand, and finding out your hero is gone, but at least you get a cool story out of it.